You're most welcome back to Matchbook's Weekend Football Podcast. We're on the home straight. The third last time we'll be talking about Premier League fixtures this season, guys. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of getting there now. Look forward to the Euros, but we've got some big games this weekend. Joined as ever this morning on Thursday morning. If you're watching us now live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch as well. Please do get in touch if you have any questions about the games this weekend. Mr. Adrian Clarke at the top of the screen. Good morning, Adrian. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah. Looking forward to today's show. But yeah, no, all good. We're getting towards the end, aren't we? It's just a shame so much of the business is already sorted, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Mark O'Haire, speaking of business, you're one of your best bets last weekend. Second half highest scoring half in Derby and Sheffield Wednesday. You described that game to an absolute T. Bonkers was the overriding word there, and it was very much bonkers.
Yeah, it was. It surpassed my own expectations, in all honesty. It was great fun. Started off, pretty cagey, pretty attritional, but then as soon as the sort of goals started flowing in, all the action appeared. We did have a keeper in the box. We did have plenty of cards as well, and loads of goals. So yeah, happy enough with that one.
And Adrian Clarke, it was kind of a mixed bag last weekend. We had 10 selections, 5 winners, but those winners, they were all generally odds against. And a couple of goals angles you had. The Doncaster-Peterborough game over 2.75. I'm pretty sure that was up after about 17 minutes. And Scunthorpe and Stevenage played out absolute borefest as you predicted.
I was pleased with that. Yeah, it was. I think I had it down as my best bet. It was on Insights as well, and yeah, it just screamed boring, and I think it was. But yeah, Peterborough cut loose, didn't they, on the last day. So no, the EFL's been a good fun ride this season in terms of selections. So yeah, on to the playoffs today.
Absolutely, covering the Championship playoffs at the end of this show. We're going to look, first of all, with the FA Cup final. We're then going to do Brighton versus West Ham. And for those watching on Thursday, we're going to do Liverpool away at Manchester United. And if you are watching this and listening on Friday or Saturday, just scroll forward during that about 7 or 8 minutes and you'll be on to the EFL playoffs. Right, gentlemen, let's get to it. And Mark O'Haire, I'll start with you first for the centrepiece or the showpiece at Wembley on Saturday evening. Chelsea are the designated home team here in the FA Cup final. You can back them at just under 1.93. Leicester City at 4.2. The draws available at 3.68. Leicester getting a half a goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.98. And the total, low enough one as ever, Mark, 2.25. And look, it's a cup final. It's obviously going to be probably something cagey. I would suggest not as bonkers as it was at Pride Park last Saturday. What do you think about this one, Mark? Are you reading much into that loss to Arsenal last night? Was it one of those that maybe Chelsea had their eyes on on Wembley on Saturday? Because outside of that, they have been exceptionally impressive. And going back to last Saturday, that win, of course, at the Etihad as well.
Yeah, I'm not reading too much into the win against Man City or the midweek defeat against Arsenal, in all honesty. Okay. I think Chelsea are pretty firm with their focus on this game. I actually think they're a really, really attractive price coming into this match. I've said a couple of times now in the past few weeks, I don't think the models, the algorithms have really caught up with Chelsea just yet, which seems mad considering Thomas Tuchel's been there since January now. But the price discrepancy between Chelsea and, let's say, a Man City or a Liverpool against similar opposition is just plain wrong, in my opinion. We know Chelsea now are probably the second best team in the country. We know the gap between themselves and City has closed significantly in the past few months. We know in data terms that they're literally neck and neck with City over the past 16 Premier League games. And I think we can all tell with the eye test as well that this team commands maximum respect. So yeah, I'm not reading too much into last week. Both teams made significant changes. Chelsea could have been 2-0 down if the penalty had been converted. They don't win from there. For a good hour, they lacked imagination. I think they lacked a bit of creative spark there, but they showed the threat on the counter-attack. They were well organised, as always, apart from a small spell before the half-time break. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to overanalyze Wednesday's game either, because Wednesday to Saturday, that's not an easy or fair schedule, in my opinion, considering Leicester played on Tuesday. So they do have the squad to cope with it, but you can't deny that they're going to have an eye on this cup final going into that Arsenal game. So, yeah, I really like Chelsea's price. There's been a few creaks around Leicester in recent weeks. Beating Man United reserves was deserved, but expected. They've been very hit and miss, though, before that. 2 clean sheets in 13. Johnny Evans' injury, is he going to be available? We don't know. That's a major concern. He's their linchpin. He's their leader. He's the organiser. They have looked tired, I think, in recent weeks. Vardy's been off the boil for a while in terms of goal scoring. I think Tielemans hasn't been as buoyant as we know he can be. and so much relies on Wilfred and Ndidi. He's meeting his match in this game in N'Golo Kante, who's, in my opinion, been one of the best players in 2021.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do give Chelsea a reasonable edge in this one. I think they're deserved odds-on favourites. If Man City were playing here against Leicester, they'd be a fraction of the price Chelsea are. And I just don't think that gap is as wide as the odds would probably suggest at this stage. So, yeah, I mean, Tuchel has beaten Zidane, Guardiola twice, Klopp, Mourinho, Ancelotti and Simeone twice, conceding 1 goal in those 8 games. His team are just so adept at game management. They're patient, they're probing. They've got different ways in which they can beat you. If you do want something meatier, of course, go back to the classic of Chelsea to win under 3.5 goals. 2.5, that's an attractive price for a cup final. 25 games now under Tuchel. Under 3.5 has landed in 23, under 2.5 in 21. Wasn't far off being 22 last week either, was it?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Just look at that sample they've played against: City twice, United, Spurs, Liverpool, Everton, Leeds, Brighton, West Ham, Real Madrid, Porto, Atletico. All teams you probably say have got a bit about them going forward. Unders has copped in 14 of those 15, and almost all of them Chelsea have kind of reduced their opponents to 1 goal or no goals at all. So, yeah, I do like Chelsea to win this cup final.
Adrian, what are you thinking? Just one question in here from P. Geasley on Twitch. Will we have another Tuchel defensive masterclass for the cup final under 2.25 play?
Yeah, it
the numbers,
definitely.
it's about right. It's about right, isn't it? Yeah, it is. But if it was 2.5, we'd be definitely probably all over.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at under 2.5. It's 1.8 last time I looked. Maybe that's been trimmed in a little bit now. I'm not sure. I don't see a high-scoring game. Tuchel v Rodgers screams tactical chess match, doesn't it? Really, they'll both be eager to set their teams up properly and to not be exposed. So no, I don't think it'll be a free for all. I think that last shout from Mark is a really good one at the price. You know, I definitely see under 3.5 goals, and for all the reasons Mark outlined, Chelsea are deserved favourites, aren't they? Leicester don't keep many clean sheets. I think he said 2 in 13. It's one in the last 7, if in terms of more up to date form. But yeah, and Johnny Evans is a big doubt, isn't he? It's touch and go. He'll make a difference if he is name fit. I'm sure we're going to give him some kind of jab or something to get him through this game. Knowing football clubs as I do with key players, they will do whatever they can to get him out there. One thing I will say is that I think Leicester are set up going forward, even though Vardy's not in sensational goal scoring form. I think they're set up to hurt Chelsea's centre halves potentially down the sides, and as Pilaqueta or Azuma, we don't know who's going to get the nod in terms of the back three. Obviously, Thiago Silva will play, but Vardy down the sides is something I think that could be a weapon for Leicester in this game. And of course, are looking to make history. Have never won the FA Cup, Leicester.
Yeah.
There's that part of me, and maybe it's just because I sort of live in Leicestershire. You know, my in-laws are all Foxes fans. There's a part of me that thinks, could this sort of complete the fairy tale? They won that Premier League title, then and now come Vardy in particular, who's obviously the talisman of both of that triumph. Can he now inspire Leicester to an FA Cup triumph as well? It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't. And I did look at Leicester plus half a goal, you know, to get the draw on side in a tight game, just under 2, I think the last time I looked. But yeah, my two primary picks were Chelsea on the nose because it's a good price, 1.925 or under 2.5. But I'm drawn personally. I might go for Mark's selection, which is Chelsea to win and under 3.5 because I think that's really good value. Yeah,
it's kind of hard to picture 4 goals, isn't it? It really is. No matter where they come from, but it'll be the one time. It'll be the one time, of course, that it does happen. And so I'm going to be small but cautious, given that we had a only okay week last week. So let's take Chelsea at 1.93, very backable price, I would suggest. But I know, Adrian, you're going to back the other one yourself, anyway, so it's all good.
Oh, for sure. They're a slightly better team, but I think Leicester against anyone, they've always got that chance. But Mark was right about Maddison's not in form. Tielemans dropped off. Vardy's dropped off. It's Iheanacho's the main man, isn't he, at the moment? There are too many warning signs to be confident about Leicester, even though kind of my heart says they might nick this, because Chelsea have lost quite a lot of games at Wembley. I think 4 of the last 7 they've lost beneath the arch. But Chelsea at that price, I think you've got to take them on.
They've lost him, but they didn't have Tuchel in charge. He is the fairy tale destroyer. He is the fairy tale destroyer. Okay, let's move on. Adrian, start with you for this one. Probably the most interesting game of the Premier League this weekend. It's a Saturday night kickoff down on the coast. Brighton Hove Albion at 2.88, West Ham 2.57, the draw 3.58. Brighton are the slight underdogs here in the draw on our bet market, which is 0.0 on matchbook.com, and they're 2.09. You can back West Ham draw no bet at 1.85, and 2.5 is the total. Very much shaded towards the under there at 1.85. Adrian, West Ham technically are still in that run for the Champions League. I think even with the Chelsea loss last night, it's still probably a hard task. But, they've very much got to keep it, together here for the running for the Europa League. But Brighton Hove Albion, I mean, they're safe. They're playing with house money now at this stage. And the tremendous stat there this morning, I was looking at it, they've now dropped a joint league high, 23 points from winning positions. That's Brighton. And it just tells you a lot about that team. But they're quite good. They are.
They're much better than their league position suggests. Yeah. No doubt about that. Me and Mark have both been saying this throughout the campaign. It's a little bit misleading. They're one of the most unlucky teams in the division, I guess. But you've got to question a little bit their game management. The key here might be Lewis Dunk, who obviously got himself a red card at Molineux and he's suspended. And for me, Lewis Dunk is good enough to play for a side right at the top of the division. Really, I think he's improved massively, and he's massive for Brighton. And you wonder, when you take out that player that's there every single week, when that guy gets taken out, how much is that going to impact Brighton? And statistically, they don't have a good record with that, and they've never won a Premier League game without Lewis Dunk, which I thought was quite an interesting stat. I think they've had 7, 3 draws, 4 defeats. So for me, that definitely gives a slight leg up to West Ham, who have to go for it, don't they? I mean, this is you might as well go and play for the win. They'll be stung by what happened at home to Everton. No shots on target. It was a huge disappointment, wasn't it, for them? And I'm expecting a reaction here, actually. But Brighton can go and have a bit of fun with it as well, because they know that they're safe. So for me, I was looking at opposing the market trend, really, and going with overs. I think West Ham United, have been involved in an awful lot. A
lot of them, 63% of games gone over 2.5. Yeah, a lot.
Been involved in a lot, and away from home, they've been really swashbuckling of late. Think about the Burnley game; they could, I think they racked up over 20 shots. They won't do that against Brighton. Brighton are a bit tighter, but without Lewis Dunk, who knows what's going to happen? So I think Brighton, with no pressure on, can go and attack it, and West Ham United have to play on the front foot and look to win the game. So for me, over 2.5 goals is a good price here. This is West Ham, who have been involved in some real thrillers. So I think was it 206 the last time?
2.07, yeah, good price.
2.07. I like that. I also like, obviously, if you want, I don't like draw no bets, because you only get your money back on the draw. But West Ham draw no bet. Thinking about that, Brighton's record without Lewis Dunk is an interesting one at 1.847. But over 2.5 would be my selection.
Mark O'Haire, saw you nodding along when Adrian first said over 2.5. So you're giving it a vote of confidence, if I'm reading your body language correctly.
Yeah, sort of. I was going down the goals angle as well. I like the look of both teams to score, but I can see the appeal in taking over 2.5 goals odds against for the very same reasons, really. Adrian nailed the West Ham game last week, really, and I was really disappointed with what they put out. 69% of the ball, 0 shots on target, totally nullified by the Everton system, and they had a few half chances hit the woodwork, but it was a tight game. They'll feel unfortunate not to come away with at least a point in that game. And Moyes was saying how the top 4 is still a possibility then. Well, after Chelsea's defeat, he's going to surely think there's an opportunity now. I know he's got to say that as a PR man into the press, but you look at the league table now, and certainly if they do win this game, they're absolutely still in the shout for a top 4 finish. So, their form has deserted them a little bit recently. Injuries have played a part to key players as well, particularly last weekend as well. But it's defensive showings, really, which has let them down. You can easily look to Declan Rice's absence, but it was happening before he was injured. In the bottom 6 for XG conceded and big chances allowed over the past 12, and 16 Premier League games, 3 clean sheets in 17, just 1 in 11. So yeah, the attack didn't fire last weekend, but it's actually been their inability to keep the opposition out really, which has been costing them. So yeah, you look at Brighton, they're safe, looked in control last week before Dunk got himself sent off. Wolves sent blood in that final 30, but Potter correctly called out some quite poor decisions, quite poor performances from his own players. He'll want a reaction. Mopé will be banned here, but I'm not sure that's a huge loss. I still think they've got quality elsewhere who can create and personally convert opportunities too. So yeah, I mean, I was going to go with the same formula as last week in terms of both teams to score, because it was around a 185, which I thought was really quite appealing. West Ham expected to have a few bodies back, still battling for something. Brighton playing with freedom without their centre half. Lewis Dunk, they do lose a bit more in the final third as well from set pieces, but defensively, as Adrian says, they haven't performed very well without him. And the reverse game here at the London Stadium was 2-2. A really enjoyable game, actually. So, yeah, I think this is going to be one of the most watchable Premier League games of the weekend. Saturday night should be quite a decent match. I am keen on goals, and yeah, I'm happy to go with Adrian's over 2.5 pick at a bigger price, because it is quite appealing. It does go against the trends, but I think, as Adrian said as well, this has got the ingredients to go against the trends for sure.
Yep, over 2.5, 2.07. One comment in there on our YouTube channel from James McGuinness. West Ham -1 handicap in the first half is 10-1. So James is liking them to get off to a fast start. You never know. You absolutely never know. It's a big price. It's a good interest price. All right. I like the angle there, guys. Very much like the angle. Over 2.5, 2.07. Good odds against. Let's move on to Thursday night. So we're recording this on Thursday morning. So we do apologize to anyone listening to us or watching this on Friday or Saturday. Like I said, scroll forward about 7 or 8 minutes and you'll have already known the result of this. But Mark O'Haire, I'll come back to you for this one. This one was obviously meant to be played a few weeks ago.
Here he is.
Yeah, Mystic Mark. Yeah, here he is. Yeah, 2.98. You can back Manchester United. 2.47 Liverpool. You can back them there. The draw available 3.66. United getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap, just under 1.82. 2 3/4 is the total, and that's shaded towards the over. And Mark, I start there with that one first, because I was actually off this week and we were going to be covering this game at Old Trafford, and I actually had a good bet on under 2.5. Now, obviously, there's been injury news on both sides for their defensive lineups this week. So is that the reason this goal line is trending up? Because ordinarily, Mark, you look at 2 3/4 and it's been back to the over and thinking, are we going to see 3 goals here? Are we going to see 4 goals? I don't know. Are we?
If I had to, I'd go against the goal line, but it's not a market I'm massively keen on for the reasons you mentioned there in terms of key defensive injuries, but also the goal line are always kind of a little bit higher when Liverpool are involved, because matches tend to be higher scoring when they're involved. So kind of take out the big 6 element of 2 big 6 teams playing against each other. Liverpool have to go for it, don't they? So I guess that's probably playing a part in this too. But I'm kind of glad we didn't have to talk about this game before the postponement, because United's priority back then was the Europa League. It was the game sandwiched in between the 2 games against Roma. Top 4 was already pretty much secured as well, so they were going to make changes. Whereas now there's like I really like this kind of subplot that's kind of building in terms of United's fixture congestion. Understandably, they can't play Thursday, Sunday, Tuesday, Sunday. So changes had to be made somewhere. And I just love the fact that they made changes for the Leicester game, knowing that they've got Liverpool on Thursday. The opportunity to sabotage Liverpool's season a little bit. All these kind of conspiracy theories. I absolutely love that. Play the reserves on Tuesday, play your best team against your biggest rivals on Thursday. Brilliant stuff. So really looking forward to this game.
That's the Ollie factor. Is he United? Yeah. I mean, that's no coincidence. Definitely not.
No, exactly.
He gets forever. Yeah.
It's fantastic. And, United are guaranteed a top 4 finish. They're a fortnight away from the Europa League final. This is also an opportunity now to play basically their last meaningful match with their best 11 available, which is obviously quite frustrating from a Liverpool perspective. But for us as neutrals, it's brilliant, really. So, but I guess the fallout after what's happened against Leicester was United drifted like a barge all Tuesday ahead of that Leicester game, went off around 3-1-ish, I think, because of the team news. But then most savvy people already jumped on the fact that United will be playing a first 11 here. United's price, which was, I think, ridiculous, around 3.5 at one point to win this game, has crashed into 2.98 now. So, yeah, it pays to be on the ball, looking ahead, looking at the schedules and trying to pre-plan and pre-predict where these kind of changes are going to be made. But I still think there's money to be made here in getting United on side. I do. I think United plus a quarter at 181 was 185 last night, so still money coming in for them. That defeat against Leicester was only their second since November. It was their second since November, and they're playing a reserve team, so it doesn't really matter. And you look at Liverpool, yes, they need the points, but in terms of non-penalty XG, Liverpool are below United over the past 4, 8, 12 and 16 game splits. They're giving up loads of opportunities. In terms of opportunities, are opted to define as big chances, which are opportunities where opponents are reasonably expected to score. Liverpool conceded 10 in the last 4 games. Nobody has conceded more in the Premier League. If you go back over the last 8, 12 and 16 game splits, Liverpool are in the bottom 5 for big chances conceded. So, United are going to have opportunities here if Liverpool are going to go out helter-skelter chasing these points. And I think they've shown before, United, that they are capable of frustrating the top teams, capable of grinding out results. I think before the previous game, before the postponement, the Asian handicap line was a 0 ball. I favoured United then, so I'm obviously going to favour them yet again, because I think suddenly this game has extra significance, which it probably didn't have 2 weeks ago before the previous game. So, yeah, happy to go with United again, plus a quarter ball start at 181.
Yeah, and Adrian, we talked about this pre-show. We're getting to this kind of silly season part of the Premier League season where teams that have to win are kind of, they're overpriced. And like, if for argument's sake that both of these teams were going for, that 4th spot, and in the last couple of weeks with this Manchester United team, you're nearly getting them 2-1 at home now. It's a big price.
It's a huge price. Yeah. I was staggered when I saw it. I get the context, but no, they're very good value at that price. Man United also have a very good home record against Liverpool. They've only lost one of their last 15 at home to Liverpool. So, but where I was heading, I mean, obviously the incentive is with Liverpool, but there's a great sort of hidden incentive for Manchester United, which Mark touched on at the top. Stopping Liverpool getting into the top 4 will matter to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They know it will matter to the fans. So yeah, Man United will be up for this. Don't worry about that. I was looking at the draw. 7 of the last 10 of these meetings between United and Liverpool have ended in a draw. So I'll probably have a small dab at a draw, but that would absolutely work. If I was to take on Mark's bet with United plus a quarter. So yeah, I can jump on board with that, no problem at all. But I think it'll be a close game, relatively high score. I can see attacks testing defences, both depleted. So yeah, I'm not confident enough to say it's going to be overed. But yeah, I will go for a close game, probably where both teams to score. But yeah, no, I'm more than happy to go with Mark's pick there.
Yeah, and let's just clarify that, because I see we have a lot of live viewers this morning, and I just want to show it on site how this looks at site and Matchbook quarter of a goal. So you can see here it's plus 0.0 and 0.5. So that means if you're aiming £100 bet, 50 quid is on 0.0, which is draw no bet, and 50 quid is on 0.5, which means if United win or if it is a draw, you get paid on that side. So I think that's not a bad angle, and you can currently see there it's just under 1.83, which is 5 to 6 in fractional terms. All right, I like it. We're with Manchester United. It took us a little while this season to finally get on their train, but I think we're coming aligned, which all the boys in Matchbook will be delighted with.
Well, you think about sorry, just very quickly, you think about Greenwood. He's in really good form at the moment. You got Fernandes back in the goals to some degree. You look at Liverpool. I mean, Mane obviously scored the other day, but I wouldn't say he's in form. Firmino's not in form. Jota's started to miss chances. It's a lot resting on Salah, isn't there? And I think United have got a little bit more in terms of a breadth of goal threats.
All right, like it. We're moving fast forward now to Monday. We covered the Thursday game there, so we're really doing the opposite now. Mark O'Haire, the first of the championship playoffs we want to talk about is the early kickoff on Monday, and it is Bournemouth at home to Brentford. You can back Bournemouth there at 2.82, Brentford at 2.61, the draw at 3.32. Draw no bet is the main Asian line here at 1.9. A small bit of margin in that, but again, we're 4 days out. That will tighten up in due course. 2.25 is the total and slightly trending towards the under. Mark, what are you making of this one? Is it finally going to be Brentford's time? They have they've beaten Bournemouth twice this season already, but we have seen in the past couple of seasons when it comes to the playoffs, sometimes Brentford have flattered to deceive.
Playoffs are amazing. Absolutely love
Yeah.
them. But trying to pre-predict who's going to go up and kind of following different little formulas and different teams, how much are they in form coming into the playoffs? How do they perform against their top 6 rivals or their playoff rivals? It counts for nothing really. This is almost the start of a brand new season, and it's how it's so hard to predict sometimes, because some teams come into these playoffs in fantastic form and just absolutely sink like a stone, which is what we've seen with Brentford before. So I think this first tie is really fascinating. We've probably got to the 2 most talented squads in the playoff mix. Bournemouth's probably not too dissimilar to the team that went down last season. I know Stanislas is a doubt, but you're looking at the likes of Danjuma and Solanke and Billing and Brooks as a potential front 4. Jefferson Lerma holding midfield, Colombian international, Ben Pearson or Jack Wilshere as well. They're not second-tier players really. They're not. I'm not as overly confident in their defence though, which is quite interesting. And also you look at the head coach with Woodgate, who he's always been quite cocksure, hasn't he? But I guess in his first management gig with Middlesbrough, promised plenty, didn't deliver. Here he's got Bournemouth back on the right track, in fairness. But there's still a few lingering doubts there about his ability to kind of get his team singing from the same hymn sheet. So, my suspicion, my end really, is that Middlesbrough's sort of turnaround isn't all down to him. It's just a quality bunch of players coming together at the right time. He's telling everyone that Bournemouth are underdogs. They are underdogs, but I think he's trying to do a bit of kidology on his players to sort of let them feel a little bit more serene coming into these games. But you look at Brentford, this has always been a nemesis really for down the years, no matter what division they're in. It's the playoffs, and recent history says that they probably will blow it. But you have to do every campaign with a new sheet really. And Brentford are unbeaten in 12, lost 7 league games all season, which is the joint fewest alongside Norwich. Their issue really has just been turning draws into wins, which is probably what cost them automatic promotion. Quite surprising when you consider you got Ivan Toney banging in the goals up front, and a clean sheet record though, which wasn't quite as impressive as their rivals, which was quite surprising really. But both teams fared pretty well against top 6 rivals. Brentford were the second best away travellers, Bournemouth very decent at home. It is literally as tight as the odds suggest really, so it's quite hard to find an edge in either team in my opinion. I'd be interested to hear who Adrian thinks might progress, but for me it's almost a blind bet when you get to this stage of the playoffs, which is just oppose goals in the first legs. It's been a tried and trusted method for many, many years. Since 2017, across all EFL divisions, 75% of the 24 first leg semi-finals went under 2.5 goals. You go back to the beginning of 2000, so we're looking at a 20-year spread here. 68% of the first legs have gone under 2.5 goals. 40% of those matches produced no more than 1 goal either. The average goals per game is 2.09. So when this line first opened, 2.5 was the goal line. It's already trending downwards, as you said, 2.25 now, which still does appeal considering those trends and those stats. Brentford have only shipped 2 goals in the past 7, one of which was a penalty. Under 2.5 goals was copped in 10 of their final 13 and 9 of 10 against the top 6 in the regular season. Bournemouth matchups, it has to be said, have proven a bit more expressive, a few more goals in those games. But interestingly, all 3 of their games at home against the top 3 produced a maximum of 1 goal. So I think there is a few trends on our side, but I just think those historic stats are just too significant to ignore, really. So, if in doubt, back the draw. If in doubt, just oppose goals. But I think for me, it's about opposing goals as the best bet in this tie. So under 2.25.
Yeah, Adrian, you're not immune to backing an under in the championship this season. But we're at playoff stages now. In the first leg, as Mark said, there's some damning evidence and stats to back that up. They tend to be cagey affairs, don't they?
I love those stats. Yeah, they're great historical stats, but they're valuable, I think, and they tell you about the mindset of teams going into the playoffs. You can lose. You don't want to lose it in the first leg. You want to stay in the tie, don't you? So I totally get it. All I will say is that these are 2 teams that are definitely better going forward than defending. I'm not convinced at all about Bournemouth's rear guard. If they don't go up, I think that will be the reason. Going forward, they've got so much firepower. It's frightening, really. Brentford, not so iffy at the back, but again with Ivan Toney, that it's about the goal output. Brentford are good away. I've only lost 5 of 23 on the road. They come into it in better form clearly than Bournemouth, who lost 3 3 on the spin. I had down a sort of interesting side bet of a 1-1 draw. 6.8. I think it's clearly the favourite result here in terms of the odds, and that is it's something I could absolutely see happening. The draw I think is 3.32. So yeah, it's sort of you can fall anyway in between those two picks that I've just said, or Mark's one, and you won't be too far away.
Well, yeah, if it's a 1-1 draw, we make money on both sides. So yeah, full house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just one thing I didn't mention as well, I think it's important to note that there's no away goals rule in the playoffs either, which can also play a part in opposing goals, because the away team, there's no need for the away team to come out and attack that first leg, which does play against the goals angle.
Yeah. On Brentford, they have only failed to score away from home in 4 games of 23. So that's a really good record. They almost always get at least one. So, so that's something to think about here. I certainly wouldn't be backing Bournemouth, but I'm inclined to think this would be a low-scoring game, probably a draw. So that's where we're going.
It's currently available at 6.8, but like I said, it's 4 days out. There's a small bit of margin there. So I'm going to say Adrian's going to be about 7.5 is my general kind of guess at that one. So let's put it in 7.5. And yeah, under 2.25 is available as well at about 1.85. All right, like it. Yeah. Happy with those. Let's move on to the other game on Monday night, Barnsley against Swansea. Adrian Clarke, come to you here for this one, first of all. Barnsley, you come back at 2.28. Well, that's short enough, isn't it? Swansea 3.6. The draw available at 3.24. Swansea getting a quarter of a goal start, just under even money at 1.99. And this one is even lower total, not that surprising. It's a flat 2. It is shaded towards the over 1.85, and it's odds against 2.03 for the unders. And Adrian Clarke, you already tipped your hat to me early on this morning. It's a goals angle that you're looking at here, but not necessarily the 2 line.
No, I don't like the 2 line.
It's a scary line. Yeah,
it's a scary line, especially once that first goal goes in, you're like, oh no. I like that breathing space. The odds surprised me. So on the match odds, Barnsley strong favourites, but they were beaten 2-0 home and away by Swansea in the regular season, and Barnsley up against the sort of footballing sides in the division. Because let's get this right, for anyone that hasn't seen Barnsley, you wouldn't describe them as a footballing side. They're high intensity. It's sort of play the percentage game, a lot of long balls, and they're a handful. They've got a Daryl Deco who's like Didier Drogba up front, and they've got 3 big centre halves that like to boom it. But it's about disrupting the flow of other teams. But they've struggled against the best this season. Their record against the top eight this season, Barnsley, despite finishing where they did in the league, is 1-3, drawn 3, lost 8. So for me, Barnsley should not be favourites. Should not be such skinny favourites in this game. Goals is the angle for me. I mean, Swansea on the road, 8 of 10 against the top 6, under 2.5 goals. So very tight games. They know how to sort of manage matches. Be interested to see whether they go back 3 or back 4. They always were a back 3 team. Recently, they've changed to a back 4, but yeah, they might go back to their tried and trusted. But Swansea's form is quite average coming into the playoffs. So I'm not quite confident to back Swansea, even though I think that they'll prevail. I think they'll win over 2 legs. So my angle here would be both teams to score. No. That would be my preferred angle. I could see 1-0 either way, easily see a 0-0, or it covers you for 2-0 either way as well, which I'd be more likely to think Swansea would win this 2-0 than Barnsley. So I think 9 of the last 12 BTTS has come in for Swansea games. So, they're a team that comes into the playoff not involved in sort of end-to-end contests where both teams score. So, yeah, both teams have scored now. I think you quoted me 1.8 earlier on, Sully. That would be my selection here.
Mark, what do you think of this one? Vote of confidence or going a different direction than Aidan?
Yeah, I like that. Mine was to basically rinse and repeat under 2.25, but I see it's already kind of got down to 172 now, which is kind of off-putting. When I did my notes, it was around 1.8. So, yeah, I mean, slightly more confidence in Barnsley than Adrian probably, but not in that price. Since Valérien Ismaël arrived at Barnsley, their record is astonishing. They were only outside the relegation zone on goal difference, hadn't won in their first 7. He arrived in the 39 games that followed. They've collected 74 points, which would have, over a 46-game season, would have left them 4 points out of the automatic promotion places, which is absolutely stunning. At Oakwell, 12 wins, 4 draws, 4 defeats. However, it is that record against the elite teams which falls down, really, which is quite off-putting, really. But Barnsley went off at bigger than 2-1 when they hosted Swansea in January. I know we're sort of 5 months down the line, but it kind of goes to show where these two teams have gone in those following 5 months. Swansea were in contention for automatic promotion for most of the season, have kind of they look tired. They look quite uninspired recently. 7 wins, 8 defeats in the final 19. 3 wins from 11 coming into the playoffs as well. Their away form has been a little bit better than at the Liberty. Injuries haven't helped them either. But you look at the game, or the performance, the team, I should say, who played last week. Ayew was back, Guehi was back, Conor Hourihane was back. So, suddenly that team starts to look a little bit better. And, Adrian has talked about Barnsley's style there. They the similarities out of possession with what Leeds did in the Championship. Not quite to the same level, but they're very cavalier. They do really go for teams, and they press high. They've got a high line as well, and they sometimes force errors which play to their benefit. But sometimes, obviously, it leaves them completely out of position and allows sort of more smart and savvy teams to expose them, which is a concern if you're backing Barnsley at short quotes. I was hoping to get Barnsley on side at a nice price in the away leg. But looking at the prices coming into this first leg, it's probably unlikely. So, I mean, Barnsley have been the 3rd best team in terms of XG over the second half of the season, which is surprising. Swansea have been bottom half, which is exactly why those prices are where they are. But I think no matter how you split it, Swansea have disappointed since January. Barnsley have excelled. So, I wouldn't want to oppose Barnsley myself, but I wouldn't want to be getting with goals either for all the reasons Adrian outlined. Only 9 of Barnsley's 24 this year have been over 2.5. Swansea unders in 8 of 12, 70% overall, 70% away from home have got unders as well. So, I read out all the stats in the playoff semi-finals as well before, but I think both teams to score no if you get 1.8 is absolutely fair enough. I want it under 2.25, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit too short by the time we go to where.
Yeah, I'm most happy with that one. Potentially low unders and low scoring games on Monday night for the first legs. Mark O'Haire, talk to me. Serie A, Juventus, fresh from a 3-0 loss at home to Milan. They take on the other team in Milan, Inter, on is it Saturday or Sunday? What we got? Yeah, Saturday evening. Yeah, so, let's just bring up the betting very quickly here, and you can back Juve here 2.18. Inter, the champions, 3.18. The draw 3.82. Inter getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 2.01. And the main goal line is 2.75, shaded towards the over. But Mark, I mean, look, if you've watched Juve the last couple of weeks, this is basically a price. We've touched on this already. They need to win. Inter are in the club host with the trophy, and that's why this is priced this way, surely, because Inter have got to be the value here.
Yeah, it's silly season. It's need against not need, really. But what people seem to forget is this is the Derby d'Italia, 2 great rivals going head-to-head. Inter do not like Juventus. Conte very sort of displeased with how things played out at Juventus during his end time there. And Inter and Conte are going to be absolutely motivated to try and thwart Juventus' challenge to finish in the top 4. You mentioned the 3-0 defeat against Milan last weekend, which was an abomination, led to many sort of calls for Pirlo's head. There's been plenty of discussions behind the scenes. It seems Pirlo's now going to leave at the end of the season. The only reason it wasn't done now is because they don't think anyone who can come into his position right now, who's already at the club, who can do a better job, really. There's talk about squabbles. There's talk about players disliking Ronaldo and the headlines that he hogs. It's a very unhappy marriage right now. They did go away to Sassuolo on Wednesday night and get a win. I watched the game. They were very unimpressive. The scoreline did not reflect the flow of the game. Sassuolo dominated the first half, missed a penalty. And Juve just took their chances, really, which hasn't been the case too often this season. They made a raft of changes. I expect them to make a raft of changes again for this game. But, I mean, you just look at Inter. They've been absolutely superb, fully deserving winners of the Scudetto. Conte said before the Roma match in midweek that his team wouldn't let up because They wanted to honour the championship towards the end of the season, and that's because they know they've got games like this against Juventus to play, where they can play a really key role in Juventus missing out in the Champions League next season, which would be hilarious, really. And I think Inter can see it that way as well. So they absolutely steamrolled Roma in midweek. You look at the price of the away team. Inter, the biggest price they were coming into this game away this season was 2.5 at Roma in January. They went off at 2.42 at Napoli, and probably the biggest game of the season. Quite a decent junk now to what, 3.1 did you say it was now?
Yep.
For a team that's only lost twice all season in the Serie A, highly motivated, as I said. There's a real desire there to try and thwart Juventus. Juve haven't performed particularly well against the big teams this season. 3 wins in 9 against the top 6. So if we're making money for Inter to avoid defeat here, I think we're in a good position. So Inter plus a quarter was the main play I was going to have at around even money odds against. But I think overnight the market's starting to shift towards Juve, probably because of that win, probably because of their need for the points. And I think there's going to be even better opportunity to get Inter on side before the weekend. So if I was you, I'd hold on a little bit further and you'll get Inter plus a half a goal. Maybe at 175. That's the way the market is trending.
It's trending that way. Yeah, it's very much trending that way. Yeah,
Inter are going to go full strength, so that they are absolutely going to gun to try and shoot Juve down. It should be good fun.
Yeah, absolutely is. Must-watch TV. Only that it's clashing with the FA Cup final, Adrian Clarke, but hey, what are you going to do? Best bets of all that, guys. There's a lot of good selections there. Adrian, what's your best bet of that? Or are we going elsewhere? Because we've no other EFL this weekend, so...
I know, it's weird. Normally, just 2 EFL games. I don't know what to do with myself. I think my favourite pick out of the ones that we've had would be the Brighton West Ham over 2.5. I think that the price, the right side of evens, is really, really good there. So that's my favourite of the selections we've made. But I'll chuck one in. I'll chuck in another one. It is silly season. It's that end of season. And I do think we're likely to see more goals between now and the end of the season in dead rubbers, particularly when Man City are involved. So I'm looking at Newcastle against Manchester City. They want to put on a show. It's done. They can go out there and have some fun. So can Newcastle, who would ordinarily try and be a bit cautious, I guess, to keep the score down against City. But they've made it, and we've seen they're quite exciting now, Newcastle, which is all very strange to sort of be able to absorb that comment there, Newcastle being exciting, but they are. But it doesn't mean that they're good at the back, and they've conceded at least 2 in 7 of 9 at home to the top half sides this season. So they normally concede at least a couple against the best side. So I think that would at least happen against City. 2 or 3 goals would back them to maybe nick one. So the line is at 3, which is obviously reflects what I'm talking about. But over 3, 1.917 the last time I looked is something I'm going to get on board with that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 1.94 at the moment, but still a good bet. Yeah, already come down. Mark, your best bet for the weekend? I think it's a double you're going to be putting on. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, something a bit different. I know something Adrian likes to go down, but splitting between Serie A and the Bundesliga. Sassuolo, I mentioned them earlier, played pretty well against Juventus, didn't get the result. They go away to Parma. Now, a team in Sassuolo's kind of position. What you hear from the head coach and what you believe can sometimes there might be an element of kidology there, but Sassuolo do still stand by the reason that they do want to qualify for Europe this season. Roberto De Zerbi is leaving at the end of the season, probably going to Shakhtar Donetsk, but he has said that they are keen on he said they are keen on qualifying for Europe, which is, you've got to take him at face value. They performed really well against Juventus. So I am going to take them to beat Parma, a Parma team who are already relegated, a team that's lost 18 of the last 24, conceded multiple goals in 20 of those games. They've got the worst home record in Serie A, lost 7 games on the spin coming into this. And Sassuolo generally do the business against the lesser lights and generally score a few goals as well. They've got a quality little squad, probably 4 players in contention for the Azzurri this summer as well. Taking them to beat Parma away from home. And then in Germany, Schalke, I mean, what can you say about Schalke? Absolutely abomination. They have lost all 13 games against the top 7 this season. 12 of those 13 losses have been by 2 or more goals. The aggregate of those 13 games, 3 goals in their favour, 48 against. the average out per game is 0.23 to 3.69. Just hilariously bad, really. They're playing an Eintracht Frankfurt team who've wobbled a little bit of late, has to be said, but still in contention for a top 4 finish, which I think they do deserve. So I'm backing Frankfurt to beat them. The double pays around 2.1.
All right, like that. Yeah, Schalke, so bad. And I think they hoped that Ralph Rangnick was going to fly in there with his Cape Crusader and save them. That didn't come to pass either. Just that kind of year in Gelsenkirchen. One comment in here from Lee Martin, absolutely buzzing for the Euros coming up, lads. Thank you, Lee, for bringing that up, because we will have 10 broadcasts throughout the tournament. I'm going to work these boys hard throughout the tournament. There's only about 52 games, guys, and we've got to do 10 broadcasts, so we'll have plenty coming up on that front. First off, with an anti-post for you. All right, that's it. We're out of time. We're done for today, and we are back on Monday, actually, because there's a full Premier League slate in midweek, and also League 1 and League 2 playoffs. So we're definitely going to be focusing on those in a big way. We're Monday. That's live at 10 a.m. across all of Matchbook's social channels. My thanks to Mark. My thanks to Adrian. Pleasure as ever. Best of luck with your bets next weekend. As I said, we'll speak to you Monday. Go well.